Hello everyone, this is Kat. Welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfic. This will be the continuation of Hidden Messages. This will be part 16, chapter 16, entitled The Teachers. In one quick movement, he pulled the knife away from Katsuki's throat and stabbed it into her stomach. One shot rang out, but Katsuki had moved fast enough that only a small amount of paint splatter ended up in his hair. Izuku pulled the knife back and stabbed her again, making sure that his actions would remove her. Sorry, Uraraka, but you were right. I can't kill Kachan. Izuku had stabbed her with a fake knife that had folded in on itself and let out the paint when enough force was used to penetrate someone's skin. So Uraraka was technically unharmed, yet she still was so shocked that she remained motionless. Izuku knew that Sue could look over at any moment, so he focused on making it look like he hadn't been the one to stab her. Realizing Izuku's dilemma, Katsuki pulled out his own knife to make it look like he'd been the one to stab her. Izuku wiped the paint from the knife and put it back to where he'd been carrying it in his belt. Uraraka has been stabbed in the stomach. She's the third person removed. The announcement rang over the training grounds. Sue was next to him in an instant, trying to figure out what happened as Uraraka was led away by a drone. Uraraka's eyes remained wide as she was pulled away, her face pale with her mouth still open in shock. Izuku could hear Ida and Todoroki running in the distance, so they only had a moment to get their act together. Sue looked between Izuku and Katsuki, and right as Ida and Todoroki came into view, she opened her mouth to say something. Before she could make a sound, another pop rang out, and paint dripped down her face. Sue Yuasui has been shot in the head. She is the fourth person removed. Everyone started looking around in shock as another drone came and collected Sue. Izuku had no idea who shot her, and from the looks of it, no one else did either. Ida, Todoroki, did you see who shot her? Shinso had called out. No, Todoroki said as Ida also spoke. I didn't. And both went blank in the face before they could finish what they were saying. Izuku ignored that and took out his gun, waiting for any signs of a shooter. Did anyone else see who shot her? The fighting was all over now. The only people that weren't captured by Shinso's quirk were all the people that Izuku was working with. Midoriya, you can put the gun away. I shot her. Shinso called out as he and Kaminari walked over to join them. Kirishima also walked over. What? Why? Izuku whipped around to look at him, confusion all over his face. She could tell that you were the one that stabbed Uraraka. She was going to tell them. Shinso nodded to Ida and Todoroki, who were still standing off to the side, motionless. So now what? Kirishima asks, taking in the scene around him. Now we separate. You three go back to Sero and Mina. Where are they, by the way? Izuku had almost forgotten that there were two more people in their little group that had yet to make an appearance, but he was just glad that they didn't show up for the fight. Just dealing with people that Izuku was supposedly working with was hard enough. They split up to grab the different objectives. We should probably be meeting up with them again in a couple of minutes, Kaminari supplied. Okay, so you three go back with them. Shinso and I are going to convince Ida and Todoroki that you all got away after taking out Sue and Uraraka. We'll all meet back up at the end of the plaza. Izuku started to move into action. That's a great plan, but why? We could just take them out now and not have to worry about it. Kirishima looked confused by the lengths he was going to trick his friends. We could. But I really want to go plus ultra, you know? This exercise is about more than just doing well for me. I'm proving to them that I'm not fragile, weak, and innocent. Wait. They think that you're fragile, weak, and innocent? Really? You? Have they met you, or even seen you before? Kaminari looked like Izuku just tried to claim the sky was green. Izuku laughed. Yeah, that was my thought, but they have started to make a habit of stepping in during training and defending me from literally everything. I'm sick of it. I have noticed that they've been really weird during the trainings, but I figured that you were just injured or something and wanted to hide it from Aizawa. Kirishima looked thoughtful. Nope, Izuku grimaced. Now, we don't have much time, so let's get going. Wait, Kaminari called out before Izuku could get away. Do you happen to know where objects 8 or 16 are? I'm looking for 8, and the stuffed dog, and Kiri's looking for 16. The mask. Blasty already got his ornament. Oh, and do you know where object 5 is? I need it for my task. Kirishima piped up. Izuku dug around his flag bag for a second before he pulled out the notebook, the mask, and Object 5, the yellow star. He handed the mask and the star to Kirishima before looking for the correct page in his notebook. Object 8. Oh, this was the one I was going to head to soon. It's at 11 Banana Street, under the bed in the smallest bedroom. Cool, thanks. Any other objects you need clues for? Kaminari asked before he started whispering the location of the object under his breath to memorize it. No, we got ours. Good luck. Izuku and Shinso walked away to join Ida and Todoroki, who were still both caught in Shinso's quirk. Izuku heard Katsuki click as he walked away, so he stopped. We are going to talk about what Pink Cheeks was saying earlier, got it? Okay, Kachan. Izuku continued walking away, joining Shinso. Okay, how do we want to do this? Shinso asked. Well, first off, you have to poison someone, right? Does it say how long the poison takes to work on the bottle? Oh, I didn't even think to check that. Shinso pulled out the bottle and read the label. Huh, takes 2 hours. Perfect. Choose one of them to poison now, and then they'll be removed later. After you're done that, just use your quirk. Tell them to lie down on the ground. Tell them to not remember that you used your quirk on them in the first place. Once they wake up, we'll tell them that they both got hit with an attack that knocked them out. We were able to defend them until we could keep them from getting removed. Unfortunately, Kachan and the rest of them got away, though. Damn, okay. Shinso had Ida drink the poison, and then he did exactly what Izuku told him to. Moments later, Ida and Todoroki were blinking in confusion and on the ground. It took a few minutes to get them up to date, but once they were all ready, Izuku started to lead them out of the court. Didn't you originally come over here for the camera? Todoroki asked, as he nodded at the camera still hanging on the light post. Izuku floated up to grab the item before returning to his group. We got distracted. Didn't you end up getting that rope? Yes, it turned out to be Object 36. Ida untied the rope from where he had it around his waist. Cool, do you want me to carry it in my bag? Izuku motioned to the bag that he was wearing. If you don't mind. It wasn't too big of a problem around my waist, but it could cause problems if I leave it there. It's no problem. Izuku grinned as he added the object to his bag along with the camera. Grateful again that the dark color matched his costume so well that his friends couldn't tell how full it really was. After the students were let loose on the training grounds, the teachers made their way to the viewing room to view the cameras throughout the grounds. There was a screen for each student with an AI that switched between the cameras to always keep an eye on that one student. There was also one large screen that showed whatever was the most interesting action at the time. As more students were removed, the screens that were showing them would change to show different angles of wherever the action was. Aizawa was supposed to watch all the screens equally, but he knew as soon as they had done their whole act when the prep time started that he's going to focus on Midori and Bakugo. They're planning something big, and he doesn't want to miss it. Other teachers joined them. Once they were there, after the preparation time, Nezu was intrigued enough that he decided to cancel classes for the rest of the day so that the other teachers could see this exercise. Apparently he thought that something was going to happen, and that it would be good enough for the teachers to see it live. Aizawa couldn't help but agree. The teachers that hadn't been there for the preparation time were filled in on what happened, but they didn't seem to believe that anything surprising was going to go down. However, they were always glad for a chance to watch the hero exercises. Many of the teachers were a little surprised to see Midoriya move so easily through the streets right at the start. He didn't get a chance to move like that during class much, so the only people that had really seen it were Aizawa and All Might. Aizawa did his best to hide his proud smile, but All Might was a lot less successful. Thankfully, the other teachers were too busy trying to figure out what Midori was doing to pay attention to them. Aizawa was also unsure about what Midori was planning. It took him no time at all to find his object, but he didn't go back to find his friends. Instead, he was sneaking around Peach Court and the City Hall building. Got a bit more difficult to hide his proud smile as he realized that Midori was sneaking around on rooftops, quickly, without using One for All. It's looking like the work studies might go pretty well. Did he just hide his object in the bronze ball at the top of the City Hall? Why would he do that? President Mike looked baffled. It makes sense to not want to carry around a light bulb, but why did he hide it there? When he gets removed, he would have to move it unless he goes back for it. But he can't ensure that he'll be anywhere near there at any point in the rest of the exercise, Cementos observed. I believe he has a much more complicated plan than we're giving him credit for. Nezu spoke without even looking away from the screens. Vlad King groaned as they continued, watching, and saw Monama shooting at Midori as well, even as his teammates were trying to talk him out of it. He choked as Midoriya took out his gun, and only a second later shot Monama between the eyes. As Nezu announced that Monama was removed, the heroes all stuttered out their surprise. Who taught him to shoot? That was an incredible shot, and from that far away? Snipe was amazed, looking between all the teachers, looking for some sort of an answer. No one had an answer for him, so after a moment Aizawa spoke up. As far as I know. He trailed off, though, as something on the screen caught his eye. The other teachers all turned to watch Midoriya barely stop himself from running full speed into a building. After the chuckles had stopped, Snipe turned back to Aizawa. As far as you know what? Sorry, as far as I know, no one at UA has helped him at all with shooting, although he has been practicing with his quirk to get better at aim with Black Whip and for Air Force attacks. I imagine they'd require the same techniques. Aizawa never turned from watching the screens, not wanting to miss a second of this student chaos. The teachers were distracted by the students' conversation. They had switched to a sort of Morse code. The teachers that had been watching during the prep time knew exactly how to translate the code, but the rest of them didn't. What are they saying? What kind of code is that they're using? President Mike hated hearing people communicate right in front of him and not being able to understand them. This is why he had made an effort to learn so many languages. It's Morse code, just shifted 5 letters, Vlad King announced, but it was too late to be of use. Not waiting for someone to ask, Aizawa translated. They're using the clue Yayarozu gave them, to head to the pool for Object 37. Aizawa looked down at the paper that listed the clues, which had them, and he grinned. He thought about telling the other teachers what was going on, but he figured it would be more amusing if they were surprised. Aizawa didn't know what to think about them struggling to find a way to enter the pool area. There's a time and a place for worrying about breaking and entering, but a timed school exercise and an on-campus training ground is not it. Luckily, Midori understood that and floated them over, earning them a chuckle from many of the teachers. Aizawa noticed some of the action on other screens, and he felt bad about not paying as much attention to it, but they would go over each student individually later for grading. During the exercise, they were focused on what was the most interesting parts, and Midori is on center screen. As Midori and Shinso started talking in ASL, President Mike stepped up to translate, as he was the only person in the room that knows the language. He moved to get a better view of the screen and then started speaking. Shinso's noticing that this is a clue that's less specific than the others they had, which is true, by the way. Why isn't this one more exact? President Mike was confused, but then his face changed to one of realization. Oh, they're actually there for Object 38. Object 37 is at a house on Huckleberry. President Mike's face was again one of confusion. But why lie? Oh, shit. He's only helping Bakugo, Kirishima, Kaminari, and Shinso. President Mike just watched the conversation for a moment, his eyes getting wider. He's only helping the people that take him seriously. He fought Stain? President Mike's voice got dangerously loud, almost using his quirk. What? Legally he didn't say that. What the fuck? President Mike was quick to apologize for his outbursts. Sorry. He lowered his voice to a normal volume. Apparently his friends all think that he's incapable, so he's proving them wrong, causing some chaos during this assignment. President Mike sat back down in a hurry. The teachers whispered amongst themselves about everything that they'd just heard, but it was strange to hear that one of the strongest students was seen as incapable by his closest friends, but thinking back to classes recently, it did seem like they thought that. No one mentioned the remark about Stain, probably because if he legally couldn't talk about it, then it was better left unsaid. After that conversation, the exercise got a bit boring. Izuku led his classmates all around one side of the training grounds, misdirecting them the whole time. It was almost amusing to see his makeshift bag filled without his classmates' knowledge, even more so when they asked him to carry their objects for him. And at one point all the attention was turned to 2 groups that ran into each other. Aoyama was taken out almost instantly. There wasn't even really a fight. Aoyama was shot by Shiozaki, and then his group ran. It seemed unusual, but they probably didn't want to risk the fight, seeing that none of them had completed their tasks or gotten any of their objects yet. Aoyama tried yelling out information to his teammates as they ran after he was removed. After he was informed that he would lose points for that, he argued that it was never explained, so Nezu made an announcement reminder for everyone. A drone led Aoyama out of the training center to a building where all the removed students would spend the remainder of the exercise. They were first brought to a small room with a desk where they would have to write down who they helped and who helped them. There were multiple rooms set up so that the removed students would not interact until after they filled out their papers. Once their paper was turned in, they were brought to the lounge. There were couches and many screens throughout the room where they could relax and watch the exercise as it continued. After Aoyama was removed, the exercise got boring again. Aizawa alternated between watching all of his students, but he couldn't deny that he found himself watching Midori the most. He always seemed so loyal, so to see him work behind his friends' backs was strange. It was only because the screens were in order by class number that anyone noticed what was about to happen. Midori and Bakugo's screens were right next to each other, and they were heading to the same place. There were whispers throughout the room for a few minutes as people pointed out what was happening, and as soon as everyone was watching, the room went silent with anticipation. Midori seemed to notice the other group first, but he wasn't able to stop them from meeting. He did, however, take charge, directing his classmates. He's telling Shinso to find a sparring partner and make it look real. President Mike supplied the translation of the ASL that Midori and Shinso were using. Midori is saying something to Bakugo, but I still can't make out what. Nezu sounded almost frustrated, and it sent a shiver down all the teachers' spines. He glanced at Uraraka a few times. I think that he's unsure about her watching the fight, Ectoplasm observed, but Aizawa recognized that gleam in his eyes. Or he just came up with a plan that involves her. Aizawa did his best to keep his voice even. He was excited to see how this would play out. It was silent for a moment as Midoriya tackled Bakugo, but once he had a knife to his throat, questions rang out. Would that count for his task? He has a knife to the throat, but they both put each other as their top ally, so he's not actually in danger. It counts for partial credit. Nezu chimed in, "Although this will count for full credit if he survives." Nezu nodded to where Uraraka was now pointing a gun at Bakugo's head. It was silent. Everyone was unsure about how they would get out of it. Izuku moved, and the room was in chaos. All Might spit up blood. Nezu was cackling, and many teachers were looking around with wide eyes and pale faces. Aizawa was supporting his own proud smile. He knew that Midoriya was more than just what All Might was training him to be, and this was proving it. It took a moment for Nezu to make his announcement, but Uraraka was removed. She had been stabbed in the stomach by her seemingly innocent classmate. The teachers were trying to refocus, but they weren't very successful because less than a minute later, Nezu was forced to make another announcement. Asui had been shot by Shinso, but somehow none of them knew that. Many of the teachers paled even more, shocked that another student had managed to turn against his friends like that, but again, Aizawa was supporting a proud smile. He wondered briefly if they had somehow figured out that there was secret espionage and hero points, but he didn't think that that was the case. These kids were just going full-on scorched earth just for Midoriya to prove a point. He wondered briefly, while Midoriya and Shinso came up with a plan to take out Ida, if Midoriya had a plan about how to come back from this. There's no doubt that his friends won't underestimate him after all this, but they will still be his friends. Aizawa didn't see how that would be possible, but Midoriya seemed to have a plan up until this point, so he wouldn't be surprised if he had a plan for that as well. Can Shinso's quirk modify memory like that? Aizawa was pulled from his thoughts by a question from All Might. He thought for a moment over everything that he knew about Shinso's quirk, and he realized that he didn't know. I'm not sure. I didn't think he'd ever tried it. They watched as Ida and Todoroki bought the story that was told to them, and Aizawa felt a hint of pride. Shinso was more powerful than he originally realized. The pride only lasted a moment before it was replaced with a chilling sensation. Midoriya knew that it would work, and Shinso didn't even think to question him. Either Shinso had been working on his quirk with Midoriya and hadn't told Aizawa, or Midoriya had been able to figure it out on his own, and Shinso just trusted him that much. Honestly, Aizawa had no idea which option scared him more. All right, everyone, this concludes Chapter 16 of Hidden Messages. Chapter 17 will be next. Hope you guys are enjoying this so far still, and I really like that the author included some more teacher reactions in this one. Let me know your thoughts and reactions below, and as always, thank you so much for listening.